Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. So now that we know the issue that we permanently want to address, a lot of our homeowners really appreciate understanding what caused these problems and how they found themselves in this position to begin with. So to better help answer those questions, I have a quick video clip here that I'm going to play for you, just to help give you a better understanding of how your home was originally constructed, okay? So based upon that information, does it make sense as to why we might be experiencing groundwater seepage in our basement? Awesome. All right, so essentially there are three main components we need to pay attention to here. You have something called the clay bowl effect, which essentially when your home was originally constructed, they just built a giant swimming pool. And now your home rests within that swimming pool. And to give you a good analogy, as a kid, did you ever take a bucket and flip it upside down and try pressing it down into a pool of water? Perfect. And you felt that pressure that built up in that bucket, correct? Awesome. So that's essentially the pressure that your foundation wall is experiencing. And that's something that we call hydrostatic pressure. Now, when your footing drain begins to clog due to mud and other settlement, essentially that hydrostatic pressure is going to continue to build until that water can find the least path of resistance to then alleviate that pressure. And that's when it's going to start seeping through what we call those cold joints, okay? And so homeowners kind of get a gist understanding of how this groundwater seepage may occur due to visual aspects that they may see pooling water in their basement, musty smell, or high moisture content, but they often underestimate the amount of water that's actually pooling up or building up in their foundation wall. So I'm gonna play this quick video clip for you here to kind of give you a better visual representation. And so what they're doing here is they're drilling holes into the wall to help alleviate that hydrostatic pressure and bring out all that pooling water that's in your foundation wall. It's a lot of water, huh? So at this point, a lot of our homeowners ask, well, what are my options to repair this type of situation and how do I permanently waterproof my basement? So historically, there have been a few main options that homeowners have attempted to repair this. First of all, we have paint-on coatings. Essentially what that is it's like that tar-like substance that we originally applied to the exterior of the foundation wall. Now the problem with this is when it was applied to the exterior of the foundation wall, that hydrostatic pressure was actually helping us push that tar to adhere to the structure. Now the problem with this is when you adhere it or place it in the interior of the basement, that hydrostatic pressure is now working against us. So what's going to end up doing to this paint-on coating is it's going to cause it to peel, crack, and bubble, okay? And another main issue with this is your foundation is already built out of inorganic material. So essentially it can't grow mold. However, with these paint-on coatings, they have a latex component which is organic, which can cause mold growth. So a lot of the time when homeowners tend to go this route, they start off with a basement that's already experiencing groundwater seepage, and then they apply this paint-on coating, and they are still experiencing groundwater seepage, but also experiencing mold growth too. So essentially, you're just making the problem worse if you tend to go this route. Then homeowners thought, well, I'll just reroute that water, right? So essentially, they just extended their downspout. However, with the downspout extension, all you're doing is capturing all that rainwater runoff from your gutter and your roof. So you're not addressing the underlying issue, which is that water seeping down through that unstable soil to the bottom of the footing, causing that hydrostatic pressure. Then homeowners thought, well, I'll just replace the system that's already failing me. Now the problem with this is excavation is required, so they have to dig around the entire perimeter of their home and pull out any appliances or any utilities that are in the way. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, maybe even a new beautiful deck that they just put outside, that all has to come out. And all they're essentially doing is just replacing the system that already failed them with the same system. So when it comes to permanently waterproofing our basement, does it make sense to just replace the old system that was already failing with the exact same system? Exactly, not if you're looking for a permanent solution, right? Then that led homeowners to just do a footing drain on the interior of their wall as opposed to the exterior. And just like the exterior, this is still sitting in the mud, exposing it to settlement and other debris that could clog it, which in turn you're just going to end up with more groundwater seepage as well. And you also in turn have to remove at least a 2-foot section of concrete around the entire perimeter of your basement, so you're removing a lot. Then, out of desperation, homeowners attempted to do something called a baseboard drain. That's essentially them attaching or gluing a drain to the bottom of their foundation wall to then reroute all that water to a sump pump system. The problem with this is it relies on a plastic to then help trap that water, and it relies on a self-leveling effect to get it to that sump pump system. So in turn, all it's doing is it's collecting that water and it's staying there. It's not going anywhere. So in turn, it's gonna create more odor, more musty smell for you as the homeowner. And what do we know about water and glue? Exactly. That water is just gonna remove all that glue, and in turn, that baseboard drain is just gonna come right off that wall. So based upon these historical options for repair, can we both agree that none of these are the solution for you? Perfect. So you might be asking, well, Connor, what is my solution to permanently waterproof my basement, right? And so that's where we came up with something here at Groundworks called an AquaStop basement gutter system. And so our engineering department put together this short video clip that explains this system at a very high level. So I'm going to play this for us real quick, and then we'll take a deeper dive as to what's going on, okay?
Living with a wet basement can be miserable, leaving nearly half of your home's square footage totally unusable, just because it gets wet when it rains. Cleaning up water and dealing with the results, such as mold, mildew, and rotting building materials, is tiring and expensive. Not only is this inconvenient, but it will decrease the value of your home and can cause you to have problems when you try to sell your home. But most importantly, there are health hazards associated with a wet basement. Water enters the basement from three principal areas: under the slab floor, from the walls, and at the footing wall joint. And the most effective way to address each of these and permanently fix your wet basement is with the AquaStop basement gutter system. Here's how it works. A small section of concrete around the perimeter of your basement floor is skillfully removed, and weep holes are drilled into the bottom of the wall. The patented drainage system is installed on the footing and is then backfilled with stone, and the concrete is then restored. Unlike other systems, AquaStop is not placed in the dirt and will never clog with mud washing into it. The attached wall flange directs any wall leakage down under the slab floor and into the perimeter drain. Once captured, the water is transferred to a sealed sump pump system where it is safely evacuated away from the home. The AquaStop basement gutter system permanently fixes groundwater seepage and allows you to enjoy your entire home with the peace of mind that your basement will never flood again.
Perfect. So to take a little bit of a deeper dive, as he was mentioning, the installation process is really simple. We're going to remove anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of concrete around the entire perimeter of your foundation. And then we're going to essentially install an aggregate or a gravel base to then install that basement gutter system on top of. Now, the greatest part about this basement gutter system is this wall flange right here. So it's pretty much going to have any water that's coming in from that cold joint. It's going to go into that wall flange and then redirect it into that gutter. Now, after we install it, here's a little visual representation of what it looks like. We're going to install what we call a membrane on top of that basement gutter system to prevent any moisture wicking through that concrete that we just poured to cover it. Okay. And so the most important thing when it comes to removing groundwater seepage is to actually evacuate it and get it to the place where it needs to go. So that in turn is going to create our AquaStop basement triple pump system or sump pump system. So once again, our engineering department put together this great video clip that explains this at a really high level. So once again, I'm going to play this and then we'll take a deeper dive, okay?
The heart of any crawl space waterproofing system is the sump pump. Unfortunately, not all sump pumps are created equal, and most will fail at some point, leaving you with structural issues, damaged building materials, and stored items. But more importantly, it directly contributes to mold growth and rot. Failure happens for one of three reasons. The pump stops working, the pump is overwhelmed during heavy rains, or power is lost due to a storm or a tripped circuit breaker. The AquaStop Triple addresses all three issues. As the name implies, the system features three independent pumps in one patented basin. The three pumps are staged on two integrated pump racks, and each pump has its own reed cage protected float switch. Here's what that means to you. The primary pump is responsible for moving water under normal circumstances. Should this pump have a mechanical failure, The rising water level activates the second pump, which is set slightly higher in the basin. Should the first pump not be able to keep up in a heavy storm, the second pump is activated by the rising water level, and both pumps now work together to effectively evacuate the captured water. If power is lost and the water rises above the level of both these pumps, a third sump pump, which is connected to a battery backup, now takes over. In the unlikely event that water passes all three operating ranges, the AquaStop monitoring system alerts you to rising water, allowing you to take preventive action. The AquaStop Triple provides the highest level of protection. You can sleep easy knowing you will never have to worry about a flooded basement again.
So to take a little bit of a deeper dive, here's a little cutaway visual as to what that sump pump system looks like. So you can see the 3 pumps within there. And the greatest thing about this system as compared to other sump pump systems is it actually automatically cleans itself. So in most cases with older or other sump pump systems, they tend to fail because of not overuse but underuse. So it leads to a lot of corrosion, and so when it's time for that sump pump to work, it can't because it's corroded and it just doesn't operate properly. But with our sump pump system, essentially, like I said, it cleans itself about once every 5 days for only about 7 seconds to then prevent that corrosion and removes any debris. And then things that most likely are to cause our power going out are the same things that are going to cause our groundwater seepage, right? It's like a heavy rainstorm. So the greatest thing about this sump pump system, as he said, is that it actually has a battery backup too. So even in the case that you lose power, that battery backup will then turn on and operate, causing you with no more groundwater seepage. And then from there, we just reroute the water outside of the foundation wall, and we're going to 90 it down into the ground to where it becomes buried. From there, we install 10 to 20 feet of discharge, which in turn is going to lead to the place where that water needs to be excavated or needs to be pumped out using this either a pop-up or a why can I not remember this? Either a pop-up or a yard well. And so from there, all we're going to do is we're going to backfill all that soil until this is pretty much the only thing you're going to see to permanently know that you are protected from any more groundwater seepage. Here's a visual of what the pop-up looks like and what the discharge line looks like. And from there, this is one of my favorite shots. This is essentially all you're going to see once the system is completely put in place and all those discharge lines are connected and backfilled over. And so the great thing about this too is that pop-up sits just low enough, or that yard wall sits just low enough so that if you have to do any more routine yard maintenance like mowing, you're not going to catch it on this at all. And then one more additional note that I do have to add is anything mechanical that we install, it requires electrical, right? So all we have to do is install our standard 110 outlets with a dedicated 20 amp breaker. So, and you know, if you need access to electrical vendors, I have plenty that I could refer you to, and they do an excellent job at taking care of our homeowners, okay? So based upon this information, can we both agree that this solution is the right one for you? Awesome. Let me go and add this to the cart and I'll start getting ready for our proposal, okay?